Hello, both sides of the conversation family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Both Sides of the Conversation. I'm John Henry. Today is Thursday, so you know what that means. We have another Educational Thursday presentation. We have a phenomenal guest coming on tonight to bless our community with some information that's much needed in our community, continue to push education in our community. So we are looking forward to tonight's presentation. With that being said, I want to give a few shout out to some number of organizations that's doing some work in the community to impact the community. So we are looking forward to getting that information out as well. Want to give a huge shout out to East Oakland Collective, phenomenal organization that's doing great work to impact our community. Yesterday was their team building party for their holidays, and we was able to participate in that. Phenomenal group. Got to meet some of the other folks behind the scene that are doing work to impact our community. Today they had another grocery giveaway impacting our community. Over 300 families impacted with groceries, food, meals, getting everybody set up for the holiday season. So I want to give the EOC team a huge shout out for all the work that they're doing to continue to impact our community. Shout out to Candace and to the team over there doing some phenomenal things. Looking forward to doing more things in the community and supporting them as we end this year out strong, as well as we're doing a number of things with all of our other community partners. Want to make sure community know, get out there this Saturday night and support Sacred Heart. You know, those brothers came on, those coaches this past Tuesday on our Hidden Gym segment. They are going to state championships, San Francisco. All my folks from San Francisco come out and represent our San Francisco teams. We got Balboa High School, Sacred Heart, a number of other local Bay Area teams playing for state and doing some phenomenal stuff to help uplift our city. And they're going to be playing against Southern California. So we want to come out and represent the Bay, represent the city, right? So hopefully we'll see you all out there. I'll be out there. I have a number of events. I'll be running around. Y'all going to see me all over the Bay this weekend. I got a couple of ugly sweater events, some sip and paint events. We got a couple of community toy drive giveaways, and we're just going to be moving around. So y'all see me out moving around all weekend, busy as usual, impacting our community. And it's just going to be phenomenal. So hope to see you all out there this Saturday. Also, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all the sponsors, donors who have been just overwhelming us for our toy drive and for our coat drive for our community. The deliveries have been coming in. Toys are coming in. We still haven't reached our mark for the toys, so we are still looking for folks to bring toys out to the EOC, and we'll get that information up here shortly. But right now, just the donors and the number of folks that's just been supporting the people And it is a blessing just to see we still have some good people around the holiday season that want to make sure that our community and our families are impacted. We have been doing the diaper drive, getting the diapers out to our families who need diapers. We still have a list that we're getting through, and we still taking other folks. If you need support with diapers, please reach out to us, and we'll make sure that you get supported. We've been putting the information on all of our social media handles, and we're going to continue to bless and impact our community. With that being said, we're going to jump into a couple of community announcements, and then we're going to jump into tonight's segment of Educational Thursday. In North Carolina, the man who was in prison for 23 years was awarded $6 million after the jury found that the detective falsified evidence against him. It's unfortunate that these type of incidents still is happening in our community. We still have a lot of work when we talk about the justice system, community interaction with law enforcement. There's a lot of things that we still got to continue to work on. But this man, for 23 years, was in custody, wrongfully charged for a murder that he didn't commit. And it's just nice to see that he was compensated. Never the money could take back the time that was lost. But Brother Daryl Howard was sentenced to 80 years in prison in 1991 for suspected of killing 29-year-old Doris Washington and her 13-year-old daughter, Nashonda, and he was found guilty of arson and 2 counts of second-degree murder. But this past August, the conviction was vacated and he was released. And then the Durham County judge acknowledged that it was misconduct against the authorities and some of the Fallon officers and district attorney. So just happy that is being done. I mean, there is still a lot of work. There has been a number of negative interactions in our community with police. A football player was shot by officers and killed last week. The other day, an NFL player was killed while in police custody. So we still have issues when we talk about the interaction of our people with law enforcement. And we're going to continue here at both sides of the conversation to do our part, to continue to have those conversations with law enforcement and community. And we got to come up with solutions. I know community don't like to deal with law enforcement, but we got to have these conversations because our folks are still getting killed and our folks are still being mishandled and treated when they're being detained or interacted by police. So a lot of work is still needed to happen. These disparities and these issues that we are faced with in our community is real, and it is still happening. On the flip side of that news, today it was breaking news. Jesse Smullet, y'all remember from Empire, he was convicted today on all charges for falsely making complaints of that hoax or whatever it was, if y'all remember the case. But today he was found guilty on all charges. So terrible news to hear that. Don't understand why the young brother did it. Mental health is real in our community, and we're going to continue to advocate for mental health and things of that nature for our community. So sad to hear that news, but it is what it is. The jury found him guilty, and that's what's going on in that case. Also, unfortunate news, as we always talk about historically, how racism has impacted the Black community. A California Black couple sues their appraiser for undervaluing their homes. I don't know if you guys heard this story, but it's been going around the news. A Black couple in Marin claimed that their home was undervalued during their appraisal process because they were a Black family. They lived in Marin County. For folks who don't know, here in the Bay Area, Marin is a wealthy county that's predominantly lived or served by white families. And these wonderful couple, Paul and Tanisha, purchased their home in 2016 for $550,000, and they made about $400,000 worth of renovations, and they added some footage to the home and did some remodeling to uplift the property to go ahead and sell it. And then the appraisers came out and appraised the property for way less than what the value was worth. And you all know red light in our communities have been happening. We talk about some of the systemic and racist issues within our systems. This is just another clear story to let community know racism still exists in these systems, and we have to fix it. So I'm glad that they're legally going after these appraisers, and we hope the Attorney General here in California, we hope some of the legislative folks across this country do a little bit better job in policing these banks and some of these folks who handle financial needs for our community, as our community is trying to do their part to build generational wealth and do the right things. And we still have these systems that hold us down. So unfortunate news, but it is happening. Also, it's still been a violent weekend across the Bay Area. Please be safe out there, community. There's been a number of home invasions, robberies as we get close to the holiday season. To all of the sisters out there, single family, women that like to go out and shop, be safe. When you're going to your cars, be mindful of the people around you. We've had a number of incidents at our malls where more and more people are being brave, going up behind folks while they putting stuff in their cars and their trunks and robbing them, following them to their houses, tying them up and different things of that nature. It's very tragic that this stuff is happening. But as we get closer to the holidays and money and different things, inflation is just causing people to be desperate. And with COVID and everything happening, be safe out there, you all. It's very important. With that being said, for the both sides of the conversation announcements, we are still looking for support to continue to push what we're doing. And one way you can support is through our Amazon Smile. You could donate to us through your purchases. If you purchase something, you could choose both sides of the conversation as one of your charity donors. And a portion of your sale will come to help support the movement, what we're doing. And we know everybody loves to shop on Amazon. So what a way to shop, spend a few dollars, and also give back to a community charity like Both Sides of the Conversation. Y'all know the work we do to impact the people. So we thank you and support all you all that continue to support us through that. Some of the community events that are coming up, the Jingle All the Way at the Baby Opera House is happening on December 18th. From 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. We're going to have the Bay Area rapper Mac Mall. He's going to be doing a performance, and there's a number of other folks that's going to be out there for this live event. It's going to be nice. They're going to be tabling. It's going to be a lot of stuff happening. So Hunters Point is going to be lit up on December 18th. Also, Maurice Rivers is going to be having his event, and we'll be getting that information out to community as well. For Kwanzaa, there's a number of events that are going to be happening over the next couple of weeks as we lead up to Christmas, and y'all will see both sides of the conversation out there in the streets with the people in the community. I will be there. Also, we have Shugs, A Christmas to Remember. She's doing an event, live entertainment, vendors, food. It's going to be a silent auction. They're going to be giving away toys and clothes. That's going to be the next day on December the 19th from 1 to 5 p.m. at Cafe Envy at 1701 Yosemite. It's going to be an outside event. So most likely it's going to be cold and it might be raining. So please dress appropriately, but come out and support Shug event. I think this is going to be cool. And some of the families are going to be best before the Christmas holiday weekend and giving away some of those supported items. Also, the AACC, y'all know what that is, the African American Culture Center. They're going to be presenting Wakanda Wonderland. It is happening this Saturday at 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. at 762 Folsom Street. There'll be vending, games, rides, prizes for the youth. They're going to have an adult zone as well. Also, they'll be having the same event and some other festivities happening over at Collective Impact. So if you're out there, go to 1050 McAllister at El Hill Hutch. I'll be out there. We'll be out there hanging out with the community with Mo Magic, and we'll be there. So you'll see me out there for most of the day at that event. The Homeless Children Network is presenting their event for Healing Arts. It is going to be happening. It's kicking off on 12/13, and it's going to be running through at 9 a.m. They're going to be having it at 1426 Fillmore Street, Suite 301. Please check out the Homeless Children Network website for all the updated information. If you are into art, you want to see some cool art that some of the Black folks are doing in our community, please go check out that event. This Friday, which is tomorrow, at Booker T. Washington Community Center, they are having the Winterfest celebration from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at 800 Presidio Ave. They're going to have toys, a book giveaway, wellness stuff. They're going to be doing vaccines and COVID testing for the holiday, and they're going to also serve amazing dinner for community. So if you're in the area, please go out and support that event. Sister Shakira and the team over there at Booker T. Washington is continuing to do their part to help impact our community. So we are looking forward to that event and just seeing the support that's continuing to happen into our community. And when we're talking about COVID and the things that's impacting our community, this Sunday for our Sunday conversation, we will be having another conversation, part 2 of the Town Hall series. We'll be talking about COVID and other Black related health issues with Dr. Mo and Dr. Franks, who was on on last week. They're going to be answering questions for community, talking about some of the health disparities and some of the things that has taken place in the Black community during this COVID that we need to be aware in our community. We talk about HIV, STIs, and a number of different diseases and things that are impacting our community. So this Sunday conversation is going to be a special one. We're going to open it up, not just about COVID, but we're going to be talking about our Black and brown health overall, what's been going on during since COVID, and how we've been impacted in our community. Also, with the COVID talk, there has been a number of young folks. Schools have been impacted with COVID outbreaks. So continue to think about social distancing, wearing masks, and for our young folks that can get vaccinated, hopefully last week conversation and this week conversation will help some of our families to make a choice. Is it reasonable or feasible to get our young people vaccinated, as some of these schools have been impacted? And again, we are not here to push anybody any way, but we want to make sure that our community gets the right information so that they can make the right decision to impact community. With that being said, the last announcement, as we leave 2021 into 22, there's a number of things that we are doing here at both sides of the conversation to impact community. We are excited. We have some events coming up. Our website launch, you'll get more information on our website that'll be dropping in a couple of days. Please check out the new website. Just go to BSOTC. You don't have to put the www in there. Just go to bsotc.org. Check out the new website. We are still working out some of the bugs, but we're going to clean it up and make it amazing for the community to access. It is very, very nice. Check out our website. We got a family bowling event that's going to be coming out. Information is going to be dropping next week. So if you want to be a part of that, if you all saw our skate event, y'all seen the amazing stuff that happened at that event. And Miss Delia was out there to support us too. But this time we are doing it in the city. And we're going to bring that love that we had from the skate event to this bowling event in honor of my mom and my cousin G14. As you all know, I lost my mom this year. She was a professional bowler. And my cousin, we lost him at work. He was working and was killed at work. From a workplace injury accident. And, they both was in the bowling. And this event is going to be in honor of them. So I would like all of my family, friends, community folks come out and support this event. This is going to be huge for me as we're going to push forward to do this event. And everything is going to be taken care of. It's a free event. All you have to do is show up. We're going to have food. We're going to have DJ. We're going to have our 360 booth out there and take photos. It's going to be a lot of things happening, more to come, but we'll get that information out to community as soon as possible, and it becoming most likely before the end of next week. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead now and close my mouth. I have said enough announcements. I've talked enough. It is time to get to tonight's phenomenal guests and get ready for their presentation. So I hope you all are ready to listen to some phenomenal folks who's going to give us some information that's needed for our community. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start introducing tonight's guests, and they're going to come on and further introduce themselves to the community and let community know what they're doing and how they're impacting the community. First, we're going to start off with the fabulous Crystal Hawkins. We're going to bring her up and let her introduce herself to community and talk about tonight's presentation.
Hi, both sides of the conversation. My name is Crystal Hawkins. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm also a program administrator in the San Francisco Unified School District in the early education department. I oversee a program that I designed specifically to support the overrepresentation, particularly of Black children in special education and emotional disturbances, being suspended and expelled. I also do consulting work, which we'll tap into that tonight, regarding program development, professional workshops, professional development for educators and families. And I'm also an outpatient therapist, where I provide outpatient therapy in the East Bay, specifically to Black families and individuals seeking mental health services. Last but not least, I am also the co-founder of Black Girl, Brown Girl Books. It's a children's book publishing company where we are intentionally changing the narrative of what characters look like in early childhood classrooms, as well as their literature. I am so honored to be here tonight. Thank you, John, for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming back. I know you've been on here before. We appreciate you. And I did sponsor the stuff you did. I'm a man of my word. You got the book and t-shirt for my grandbaby. So I'm excited to continue to support you and what you're doing. And, just thank you for doing that work. As I said earlier, mental health is a big issue in our community. And it's always nice to see people who look like us and have that cultural appropriation to give back and work with our community to help us. Very, very important stuff. So thank you. I can't wait tonight to hear a little bit more. With that being said, we're going to go to the Miss Fabulous Delia Fitzpatrick and bring her up with the early African American childhood educators. Phenomenal sister doing so many amazing things. And Delia, welcome back to Both Sides of the Conversation. Let the people know who you are, what you're doing, sister.
My name is Delia Fitzpatrick. I am so many things. I am wonderful, blessed, and highly favored. But I work for an after-school program, which is Our Kids First. I am also a administrator for the African American Early Childhood Educators, and I am an executive director for The Good Rule, a nonprofit here in San Francisco. And that's me.
All right, phenomenal stuff. Delia does everything, okay, everybody? Don't get it twisted. She does everything, and she supports everybody, and that's what it's all about. When we talk about building up our community, and y'all heard Crystal talk about changing the narrative, and that's what we're trying to do here at Both Sides of the Conversation. Change the narrative, right? There's been so much trauma in our community, but Delia's one of the real ones. When she says she's going to show up, she shows up. And I know I've dropped the ball and said I was going to show up a couple of times and just got busy.
Yes.
I'll be at the event. I'll be out there to support, and I'll continue to support all the work that you all are doing. And thank you, Delia, for being a pillar of our community, always standing up, fighting for the community, fighting for the people, and we appreciate you and we love you. And Both Sides of the Conversation will support any and everything you do because you are one of those pillars of the community. So with that being said, the last guest, phenomenal young lady coming from the Commonwealth. For all y'all folks that talk about Both Sides of the Conversation, it's only about San Francisco and the Bay Area. We got somebody coming all the way from the Commonwealth, y'all. Welcome to the Both Sides of the Conversation, Mr. Francis.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Both Sides of the Conversation. Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is LaShawn Francis, and I am a quality mental health professional. I'm a co-consultant with Crystal Hawkins at Crystal Hawkins and Associates, and my platform is all about dismantling the stigma surrounding mental health treatment and mental health diagnoses with the African American and hopefully Caribbean community as well. I think it's very important that we acknowledge the traumas, the struggles that we've had, and we fix or we seek help to fix it so that we could have a very self-sustaining and strong community. And yes, I am a Virginian who is partnering with my friend from the Bay Area. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. I think that's very phenomenal. I mean, this is what it's really all about. And that's what we're trying to do here at Both Sides of the Conversation. Too many times our nonprofits, some of our businesses work in silos, and we just want to connect all of our folks. This is really about the work. And when we talk about mental health, I'm a big advocate for it, especially in our community. We know it's needed. But when we talk about mental health, there is a stigma and there's a taboo to that conversation. And we have to make it cool. And I always tell people to start with folks like you all that come on and be vulnerable and be open and talk about it. So I think once we do that, other people feel like it's okay to talk about it, and I'll do my part, and I talk about doing my grief counseling work after I lost my mom, and I continue to do therapy and different things to help myself. But I also want men in the community, and I want to catch both y'all on the spot because I want to have a Sunday conversation early next year as we start getting into our Black History Month and we start getting into our health month, to talk about some of this mental health stuff, not only during COVID. I mean, right now COVID is taking over the conversation, but mental health is really impacting our community, and I really want to have a space where we bring on, not only YouTube, but some other professional clinicians and bring some male clinicians on here because we got to get our males in the community some help. And I talk about this all the time when we talk about mental health and we talk about our community. It seems that the ladies in the Black and brown community are getting the treatment, getting the help. They got their sisterhood power groups, but the males in the community are not getting it. And the only way we can truly fix and heal our community is we have to get both sides, males and females, into therapy and dealing with some of these traumas and some of the things that impact us to deal with mental health. So I am looking forward, and I'm going to keep you all on the list because I want to get a panel of Black folks to come on. We can talk about this and have a real conversation because it is some very, very concerning news that's been going around that I'm seeing across this country. When we talk about Black male suicide, we talk about some of the things that are taking place in our country, and we got to talk about it. And I'm hoping to connect with you all because I want to have a conversation about it. And I think that's something that our community needs to start talking about: suicide, depression, anxiety, and some of the things that we just don't deal with as sometimes in our community for whatever reasons. We know it's just a difficult conversation over the years. When we talk about mental health, it's been demonized, weaponized, and everything else. But we got to bring it back. We got to start making it cool. Because this killing and this stuff that's going on in our community, domestic violence, we got to stop. We got to deal with this stuff. And it starts with these conversations. So with that being said, I'm turning over to you all now. This is your platform. You tell me what you want to do. Delia, did you want to go through your PowerPoint presentation, or y'all tell me which way y'all want to go, and I'll help y'all get through it. Yeah, unmute yourself, Delia.
Let's start with the PowerPoint, please.
Okay. I'll put it up there on the screen, and you could go ahead and run through it.
All right. So this group, the African American Early Child Educators Group, is a group that spawned from African American childcare providers that weren't having their voice heard. So it's made up of Lakeview and Bayview providers that were being neglected and ignored when it came to resources and supplies. So that's how this group began. And through this group, there's the pillars, which are, Margie, she's been in the business for over 37 years. Miss Renee, 38 years. Monique Goodry, 26 years. Mary, 40 years. Patricia, 30 years. They have an average of 34 years in the business. And it's not just business to them, it's child development. It's early child development, caring about the child from 0 to 5, and sometimes even older. This is what the goal is for the child care providers. It's bringing support. And how do you bring support to a system where the African American children are being left behind? A lot of the systems weren't made for African American children, and Crystal will tap into that with through her work. But through COVID, we all kind of banded together and started asking those questions, those hard questions, going to meetings and asking, why aren't you giving the Black providers services? Why is information not being shared that to everyone and not being in silos of if you're Asian and if you're Hispanic? Why are those two ethnic groups the only ones providing with that information and getting the services? And so the African American providers were getting like the sloppy seconds in terms, right? And that's how the group began last year. And our vision is to reduce achievement gaps. It's providing access to quality education. If you think the child care provider is the first community center, food kitchen, social emotional support, therapist, resource, the family resource center in a sense, they are the first. Their first exposure for any parent that is having to raise a child. If they don't have bringings in San Francisco. How do you raise a child in San Francisco without a support system? So they are we need to make sure that those providers, those African American providers, have the support that they need, have the access to have specialized or intentional recruitment, and it breeds into why they're so important. In I don't even say normal, in a regular human being, 90% of the human body brain grows 90% by the age of 3. So if they don't have the emotional support, if they don't have the language development, cognitive, motor, caregiving, environmental stressors by 3, what kind of child will this child grow up to be? We want to make sure that our children, our African American children, have the support that they need. I did a survey last year, and my intern called 187 child care providers, and it was mixed races, but you knew that some of the races, and some of the races said that they did not have any African American children, and they did not want any African American children. So what does that leave you with? And then when you look at the scope of the African American children, the child care providers, how many child care providers do you have left if you're not giving your kids that support? Who's going to take care of our Black children? Are we going to stop having kids? No. The human race is still going to procreate. So we need to make sure that our children have the support that they need. With that, we can go into the developmental delays. We know them. We see them every day. It's a school success. It's literacy. It's self-discipline. This is all within the early childhood development. We need to make sure we have the support that we need. So fortunate for us, in 2020, the Dreamkeeper Initiative was enacted by Mayor Breed and the Board of Supervisor President Shaman Walton, advocating for these dollars. So the African American early childhood educators went to Director Davis and pleaded our case, and we provided evidence to where we're being removed from conversations about our children. We're not being heard, and we need to make sure that we advocate for dollars for us. And this is the perfect group for it, because we bonded together and really having meetings with supervisors and Children's Council and WUYI and CPAC and all the acronyms in the city, just to make sure that they realize, how do you have a Black organization or a committee? How do you have a Black committee with only one Black person on that committee? What is that? How can other races call to what it's like to live with a Black mother, or have to deal with bullets in the community, or have food insecurities and mental PTSD syndrome at 4 years old, and what it's like to be a Black child going to elementary school when you're not welcome? How do they know how to put things and resources in a child's community if they're not Black? They have no experience to that. They can't even speak to that. So this is why we advocated for the dollars. And through all of this, we have been attending meetings, and we had some incidents in with Invest Black, meaning people removing the Invest Black painting on the road. We had, so we called to order through the help of our supervisor and Director Davis, and calling to community organizations that didn't have no rapport with other organizations or the community, so they would call the cops. There's other means to rectify situations or building relationships rather than calling the cops on our people, our young Black people or old Black people that are on the street. Why are they on the street? How has the city systematically disenfranchised African American men in San Francisco? That's a whole different conversation, right? So through those conversations, we began the talk for this advocacy of Dreamkeeper initiatives. And so as a group, we have advocated and we have funds for school supplies. We have a STEM program. It's called STEM Frenzy, that is bringing workshops and field trips to the community that we serve. We're being very intentional because we would like to bring resources to the community as far as not what children are used to, right? You sit a kid in front of YouTube, they're gonna watch YouTube all day. But we need to have more hands-on experiences. That's why we've partnered with STEM to Heart. We've partnered with other organizations throughout San Francisco to really bring the hands-on initiative to STEM, and have field trips. So family field trips. Family field trips meaning we take the whole family. We're not babysitting your children. We got a charter bus. We take the child and your mom and dad on a field trip to somewhere they've not been. We've had 2 experiences of that sort where the whole family is excited about going away and seeing, like we went to Lake Sonoma, a fish hatchery, experiencing things that we've not seen and having that special invitation, which was, it was great to see salmon, touch them, feed them, and experience and learn about something that is not on our everyday radar. But through all of these components, we started the kindergartner kit. And the kindergartner kit, the whole mind thought of the kindergartner kit is that during breaks, spring, summer, winter, spring break, the kid will have a box, something that they can play with and read and do, that it's almost like having Christmas 4 times a year. They'll be able to experience, for kindergartners, we did the whole thing with, their alphabet, they're having a book, color crayons, and we're also doing it. We're going to launch another series with science, and that will be targeted for kindergarten up to high school. That's a whole nother project for next year, but just trying to be very intentional on increasing increasing everything. When I came up with STEM Frenzy, it was about exploding. I wanted to call it Fury, because I just wanted it to be like explode and like your mind blown. But I figured out that, Fury was not a good word, but frenzy is about hands-on interactive experiences for the children. But when we released the kindergartner kit, we did the basics, the flashcards, color crayons. But then when we went into the winter kit, we partnered with Crystal Hawkins and her team with LaShawn, and really trying to be very intentional on how we create a box that will really therapeutic, to be intentional mental support for our children. And they'll get better. And, like everything is all new. And we are changing and molding this to really cater towards the needs of our children. Crystal, tell us how you created this box.
Absolutely. I think between you, John, some of the things you mentioned, and Delia, definitely quite a few gems you were dropping, a lot of ideas came to mind. We know that historically, the educational system was not designed with Black folks in mind at all, right? Historically, we know that Black folks, Black women have made changes that have impacted all folks in the community. That makes me think about the Black Teacher Project in Oakland, where they say all children benefit from seeing a Black teacher. It makes me think about how we honor parents as the first teacher. And if we're honoring parents as the first teacher, then the learning happens way before the child enters any school district, any classroom. Yes. So in honoring that partnership with the family came the idea for the kindergarten boxes. So LaShawn and I worked in an intentional way to think through what can a child have in addition that's like building off of and introducing new concepts where the parents can feel empowered in between these breaks. So a lot of my early childhood expertise was used, definitely built on LaShawn's mental health professional expertise, as well as she's a mom of two. So like I love on people's kids every day, but I don't have any my own. So just really, what was it like for you raising two girls that now both her girls are in college? So we really was like a holistic approach to this. So as it's mentioned, early childhood is the age of 0 to 8. So by the time you're 8 years old, 90% of your adult brain is developed. So with that, we really have to foster a lot of like values, beliefs, sense of self, confidence, but also during this time, this is where a lot of cognitive delays will occur. Any language delays or disorders may happen. For us, we know that children that are not Black enter school knowing any word when they enter preschool knowing up to 2,000 words. And our babies sometimes coming in knowing maybe like 500 words. So there's already a gap starting in as young as preschool. So we want to be intentional about putting language activities in there for the parents, sensory activities. And I'm not going to say how old I am, a little over 21. Maybe I'll be 22 this Sunday. I won't mention, maybe.
Wait, hold on. It's your birthday this weekend. Hold on. You can't, it's your birthday.
So that's why I said I may be 22, John. Now, you may have to mute yourself if you disagree. Okay, back to me being 22. I was going somewhere with this, okay? I was going to say that it wasn't until I was an adult developing my own program. I feel like, am I frozen? Was I frozen?
No, you're fine. You're good.
You guys were? Okay, I'm fine. So it wasn't until I was developing the program I run in the school district where I learned about sensory integration. So all my life, I just thought that, oh, when I go to the movies or when I catch a flight, I have to have like on leggings or like some type of stretchy material. I was able to learn as an adult, there's a different type of sensory input you need in order to feel like calm and relaxed as you're on a flight. So being mindful of the sensory, social, emotional, and academic materials put in these boxes for our children was very, very important. And when I speak to social emotional, it's because we know our Black babies are, the young ones are adultified, treated as you're 5, but you should be acting as you're 8. You should know better. When their white peers are, like, oh, they're learning, they're rambunctious or something like that. And our babies are seen as getting result in punitive measures and getting consequences. And then the older our kids get, they're treated more as children, or like some of us as Black adults in spaces. So really being mindful of the sensory, social, emotional, gross motor, fine motor activities put in the box so the parents can feel empowered and be the experts as building on the learning that happens in school and introducing new concepts to their babies in the home. I will pass it to LaShawn to talk a little bit more about what we had in some of the boxes of specific materials.
Hi, like Crystal said, that we chose each and every sorry about that. We chose each and every item specifically because we wanted to not only have the item be educational, but we wanted to stimulate these children. We want to make sure that our kids are asking questions. We want to make sure that we're piquing their curiosity so that every time we answer a question, we are in fact educating these children. So items that we chose, they were different items. So we know that with children, we wanted to encourage the development of fine motor skills. So we had some like Play-Doh. We had we wanted them to start writing like letters, tracing, learning to develop how to write their name. We had balance pods so that they can learn how to use their gross motor skills in a way that is developing their trunk, their legs. And, it'll be fun too. Kids like to balance on a curb and different things like when they're walking. So they have something that's actually, specified and functional. And it's also safe because it's only like a few inches off the ground. We had some, let me see. We made sure that we had coloring books, but these coloring books reflected children and students that look like them. Very important that kids are able to visualize and imagine a world with them in it, and seeing people living in these communities that look like them as well. It was very important when I spoke to Crystal that we develop their sensory, like you were saying, we develop their sensory. So it was important to get tactile books because I don't know how many children are wearing corduroy, but it's still, they get information by running their fingers over that type of material. They get information by running their fingers over material that, has bristles or is soft. So everything we did and all the items that we picked, it had there was a meaning behind it. And it was all about developing, developing their fine and gross motor skills, something that we want them just to be, strong and prepared for kindergarten. Very, very important.
All right, very important information. Anything else that you guys want to provide before I ask any questions? I don't want to interrupt y'all flow, but anything else y'all want to put out there?
I think it was important just to talk a little bit about the consulting agency or consulting organization. So C. Hawkins and Associates, it was mentioned earlier that I live in the Bay. The Bay has been good to me, but I am a South Central LA native, very proudly. LaShawn and I met, oh gosh, if I say how long ago, would that make me not seem 21? Well, we met when I was like 3, but we met about 14 years ago working at a residential treatment facility. And even then you saw the way that the Black staff nurtured our children was different than how other people nurtured our children, whether they had behavior needs or dual diagnoses. And when I created C. Hawkins and Associates while in the Bay Area, I was intentional that I would only do work with Black folks and I would only do work with my friends, like people I know, because I remember when I was seeking a therapist myself, it took me a while to find my therapist. I was in therapy for a year, but also I was looking for the community that I had when I lived in Virginia. Prior to moving to the Bay, I had never had a supervisor who wasn't a Black person. So now being here, it was about, okay, where are my Black social workers, my Black educators, my Black nurses, all different industries. I wanted to connect with Black folks. So I said C. Hawkins and Associates would be intentional in that way, that it would only be Black professionals and it would only be folks I knew, because the world will have you think that we're not in all these different fields and industries when wholeheartedly and absolutely we are. So that was the intentionality about representation in that way. I wanted to mention that because it was important because, you know, researchers coming from Stanford is cool and all, but if I sit in another meeting and a researcher from Stanford that does not look like the children in the Bayview, but she's telling us about the Bayview kids that I work with every day was presenting, I was gonna maybe I was gonna have some fury, Delia. I don't know what I was gonna do in another meeting, but I knew that would need to be the heart and soul of this work we were going to do together. So I wanted to mention that.
Crystal, they coming for you in the chats. I see the 22 years old. They posted they they're not taking your 22-year-old. I don't know what's going on, but they don't think you're 22.
Fine, I'll be 30 on Sunday.
Oh man, very, very important stuff. You know, I definitely jump in there for a quick second. You know, just want to start off, you know, with Delia, you know, what you're talking about, you know, the importance, you know, of this information and education is very, very important in our community. And community, you know, these are the individuals, these are the people who really impact and make the change in our community. And it does start early. And that's why I appreciate the work that you all are doing in the OMI. And I'm going to tell you right now, and they can come after me, Delia, the OMI is the model of how we should be moving in the city. You know, and I don't agree with everything that goes on in the city, but the way you are coming together, going together, and being intentional to impact our community, the work that you all are doing with STEM Frenzy in this early education is very important. And I want to give a huge shout out to Miss Margie, and I haven't seen her in a long time, and I asked you in the picture. And I always want to give true testimonies. You know, I'm always going to be real and be authentic on this program when we talking about community folks and the work that they do and the impact, right? Because we always looking for data, but I look at the impact. Data don't mean nothing if you don't see results. And Miss Margie, in this program that you're talking about has been going on for years. My daughter, who's 24 years old, just graduated at LVN, started at Miss Margie's daycare. And I want community to know how important these programs and this type of education early is very, very important. It definitely has an impact on our young folks. And I was a young 17-year-old dad. Okay, I didn't know nothing. I was out there. I was just coming and going at the time. And Miss Margie, but I was always a hard worker, and I was always about my baby. But Miss Margie, them over the years, as she went through that program, have always instilled a lot of educational stuff that my daughter just held on to. And she would always say, your daughter is very smart. She picks up things. I mean, and this work is real. And over the years, just starting off at that early ed, you know, and as she transitioned into kindergarten and into middle school, that development grew. And I don't think if I didn't get that opportunity to have children counsel and to have Miss Margie with that support, I don't know, because I wasn't there on that education. I was out there trying to get money, but you know, these programs work, and I just want to make sure that community understands the importance, and this is why Delia and the OMI crew and the early educators are really advocating and fighting. And we need community to get behind and fight for these services and fight for our community organizations like Delia and Crystal and them to make sure that our families and community gets this. Because I've been on calls and I've learned so much listening to Delia and her leadership and finding out how other groups in our community get support that our community doesn't get. And, you know, the funding and support. And I heard Delia say sloppy seconds. We can't have that in our community. We want to make sure that our young folks get the education and intentional information that's needed. And it starts young. And I definitely want to thank Dr. Director Davis as well for always keeping education on the forefront of all of her planning and things that they're doing to intentionally impact the community. And I just wanted to throw that out there because a lot of times people don't understand the impact. And I just want to have that testimony to say, even my daughter was a part of that. Those programs and getting that development, and just to see the work that you and Derek and the rest of your people are doing with our young folks, teaching them STEM, I think is very important because in our community right now, we have a wide disparity when it comes into employment and where the sectors of employment that our community is going to. And I think STEM is somewhere that we need to be. Automation, AI, and things of that nature. There's too many times in the Black community we always getting pivoted into construction, janitorial, and these low beneath jobs. And we really want to promote our young people to really start getting into the science, the math, the engineering, and some of the robotics, because we got to think about the future. And I think this is why I'm really so excited about STEM Frenzy, and I want to get my grandbaby out there, part of it. And it's been me. I take full responsibility for being busy, but I got to get her connected because I want to make sure that mind, she's 5 years old, make sure that development starts opening up to say, hey, I have this opportunity. And maybe, your program is that light switch or that energy that picks up to help cultivate and raise, the consciousness of our young folks. And it's very important. And as we look at the future, the leadership of our community, it is going to take young folks who are going to be a part of programs like the Early Ed and STEM Frenzy that's going to change our dynamics of our community and also change that look of what it looks like Black folks are a part of when we talk about the job market and the creation and development of the future. So just want to give you all kudos for that. Go ahead, Delia.
I didn't realize how I grew up with my father, and my parents were together while I was growing up. But my father read in the paper that computers was going to be the thing. And he took me, a 10-year-old, to Westmore Adult School. And I went to the first computer class. They fought, and they were like, she's too young to go to an adult school. He's like, but it says all ages. That means my daughter needs to be in this class. So if you don't have anybody to stand up for you or your inner child, I never would have thought about that, going to a class on a Thursday night, a night class for computers, if somebody wasn't there to say, my child deserves this. So it's about exposing the children to everything. It's not just one thing. Every child is so unique that they're not going to get the same experience if you give it to them. But they will be able to pick one thing and say, that's what I want to do when I grow up. That's what I want to do. Oh, there's a Black person that owns that. Just thinking of the person that even owns Park SFO, the parking structure. That's a Black person that owns that. Not many people know that. It can be done. There's black pilots, teachers, professors, robotics, AI scientists from Google. They're everywhere. But we need to make sure that our children, they see that.
No, definitely. And we want to continue to do our part here to educate the community. I know Dr. Scott has a whole list of Black inventors and things that we've invented. And I'm trying to get her on this next February when we get into Black History Month to really educate our young folks to understand how much innovation Black folks have had in this country. I think it's something that we need to continue to educate our young people. And I think you're right, Delia. If we want to really change the paradigm of what our young people really think of as success, we have to start showing these other areas when you're talking about STEM and things. And this is why I'm trying to put together this club of young Black entrepreneurs and tech folks, to come show our young people so they don't think that only way you could get a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or live in this nice house is being a rapper or a basketball player, right? Too many times in our community, we think this is the only way that we can see what success look like. And I want to start getting some of those folks connected in the community because we have a lot of great accountants, tech folks, sales folks who are making millions and millions of dollars doing some amazing things. And again, like you said, nobody knows about it. Nobody talks about it. And we're going to continue to do our part here at both sides of the conversation to make sure we get those folks on here, get our young people in the community. Let's get them out of the city and show some other Black professional folks that are doing some of the same things things on a financial level or a life experience level as our rappers and our athletes, so that they can also understand I don't have to just be a rapper. I could go be a scientist, or I could be a tech person, or I could be an engineer and make just as good money and have a great life. So I really appreciate you highlighting that. I think that is more what we need to do in our community, and we need more of our community organizations to really take the lead when we talk about educating our young folks about Black history and what's going on. And not only so much Black history, right? Because I'm also a person on this platform that disagrees sometimes that Black folks, we know too much history and not enough future. And I really want to see our folks in the community transition some of the historic stuff into today's time, so that our young folks can relate to it. Because sometimes our young folks get turned off and say, well, all y'all talk about is the people back then. Well, what about the people now that are doing things that impact the community? And I want to start bringing some of those folks up and start letting our community know some of these young folks that are doing amazing, amazing things. We have some young CEOs out there. We have some young entrepreneurs who are 15, 18-year-old Black young brothers who are doing some phenomenal things. I seen a young lady today in an article in New Orleans, graduating at the age of 18, right out of high school, from college with a degree. Like, this is the stuff that we need to instill in our community, and we got to teach the future. Sometimes in the Black community, we get hung up on the historic stuff, and I know that's a big part of it. But again, we can't spend 500 plus years talking about what oppressed us and what brought us down. Let's talk about the last 10 years. There have been some phenomenal movements. There have been some phenomenal Black women and Black males in the community that has been doing things to really change the trajectory of what we think Black is in this country. So I'm excited.
Yes. And we have to get past getting the GED, right? We need to make that more accessible. We need to make sure that we have more access, and we need to make sure that it's available and get around the barriers of the fees and getting used to taking the tests on the computer. It's past that, and a lot of the trades are back, right? We're moving away from needing to have a degree, going to college. But college is good for some things. We don't want our doctors to not go to college, but the industrial age is back. We need to have those skills, and we're at the rate now where who's going to be our mechanics if we don't have those schools? Who's going to be our longshoremen?
The other thing is just robotics, right? Because if we are transitioning to robotics, how do we teach our young folks to work on the robotics that's going to be doing the work of the future? Yep. I think that's a great point that you make it. And again, when you're talking about funding and you talk about how do we look and being intentional, that's some of the stuff that I want to see. When I'm on these calls, that's what I'm talking about. Not only about the GEDs, because our kids learn different. And I think this is why, this kindergarten winter kid is so important. And the work that you all are doing are so important, because every kid is not going to college, but typically in this country, when we talk about programming, everybody's gearing funding towards kids going to college. And we forget about these kids who can go to vocational school or take other alternative routes to do great and successful things, especially in entrepreneurship. I would love to see more college campuses allowing kids to come on and learn entrepreneurship. These young folks out here are smart. They are very talented, especially in this tech world, social media, doing the things. With TikTok, look at these young Black kids who are making things go viral, these challenges. I mean, we got some talent. I think we got to really just look at the overall picture of what our future looks like when we talk about employment, education, because again, I think the educational system has done a disservice in the Black community. Our young folks learn different. We got to make school fun. We got to make it accessible. And, we got to switch the model. We get so stuck in these constructs of how things should be instead of really being open to innovative ideals. And that's why some of these other countries are advancing faster than America, because they're open to new ideals and they open to change. So, and that comes with new leadership. We got to get some of these leaders that are not doing the right thing in our community out too. So, we also need to get the help we need. We need social emotional help. We need clinical social workers. We need to be open and honest to the fact that our child needs support, or we need support. We have to give voice to that. Yeah, and I want to ask LaShawn and Crystal as well, you know, and I think I asked Crystal this before because I'm very disappointed. They say psychology, sociology, and psychiatry is like one of the highest degrees sought after by Black folks, but it seems that we can't get the right culturally appropriate folks in the community. What do we need to do to fix this programming? And I threw an ideal out there because I know during COVID, you know, a number of governors across the state put in emergency orders to reduce the amount of qualification for nurses to get in there to help out during COVID. How do we get some of that stuff legislatively in place so that we can get some of our folks who are doing phenomenal things, going to get these backgrounds into college, to get them in the community? Because it is always a sad thing for me to see. We don't have enough Black clinicians and social workers and folks in the community. But when you look at the data and the statistic, it's the highest sought after degree by Black folks, but we can't get them to work. Is it just the money? Is it the hours? Is it the training? Like, how do we fix that programming to really have impact in our community when we talk about mental health and stuff?
I think so for me, when I was a young child, I didn't have the language to know that I would be like a clinical social worker in that way, but I knew that when I made a sandwich, I wanted to make everybody on my block a sandwich. And then I later on got in trouble, right? But I knew I wanted to take care of my people that way. Um, we are out there. However, we talked about systemic and systematic systems of oppression in different organization or spaces for our children. Is also like that for adults, Black professionals in this field. In the nicest way, there has been many settings where I've had to remind someone of the letters, all the letters behind my name and area of expertise. Just because I'm a smaller Black woman in size, it was not taken as face value. That you have to do like an extra flex. So it's part of that, it not be believing the word of a Black person, or that can be correct. But also the test for licensure or things that way are steeped in white supremacy culture. I remember the clinical exam, the first time I took it, I missed it by 3 points. And I think the reason I missed it by 3 points is because I was going in there as a Black clinician who knows that if my client is having any symptoms of any mental health disorder, however, if the lights are about to get turned off and there's no food in the home, there's a way as Black folks, we address the needs in order to address other needs. So I was initially taking the licensure exam that way, where I had to go back and study and say like, oh, I can't go in is how I would go in. Let me think this way very much so. And even the study guide system I used was saying like, this is how like a fresh white clinician or a practitioner would go in to address these situations. So the systems, the tests, the assessments that our young Black children start with in preschool, a lot of the systems and testings are standardized in white culture. So just that way is a barrier to folks getting into the professional in the field. Um, I think a lot of folks, when you get into the field, there can be stigma. I am very proud to often say, like, I'm a therapist who was in therapy. One, I just had my own life experiences that I want to address, and I wanted to make sure that wasn't being projected onto any of my clients. So just knowing that I didn't want to do harm to anyone that looked like me by having my own issues that were unresolved. So just being mindful of how you place value on mental health services yourself. You can't offer help if you would deny help, you know? So thinking of it that way, a lot of the systems, based on where you live, the pay will range. It's probably not as fancy as like an engineer. The pay is not necessarily all of that. However, if you're in it for the pay, please go work somewhere else. If you're in it to help, then this is the profession for you. I'm not sure if I missed anything on that, LaShawn, about doing this work.
I want to hear LaShawn now. Come on, sisters, come on.
It's been the internet connection's been very fuzzy on my end. I heard a bit of what Crystal was saying, but if you could please just repeat the question. I think I kind of have an idea what you were talking about, but if you could just repeat the question or the comment that you made.
So what I was asking was, how do we, when COVID happened, our governor had reduced some of the qualifying skills for our nurses, to get through the program because they needed more nurses, right? We have this crisis of mental health in our community. how do we get those type of processes in place to get some of our clinicians and folks into the field, right? Because it seems that there's a problem to get people like us in the field. And I was saying that, through the data, it shows that African Americans have the highest sought after degree is sociology, being clinicians and things of that nature. But when we look at the community reflection, it's not a representation of there. So what is it that we need to do? Is it just the pay? Right? Because I really believe for mental health in this country right now, you look at the school shootings, what's taking place across this country right now. I think we need to be investing in mental health as much as we invest in COVID, right? So that's where I'm at with it, right? So if that means raising all of the salaries for our clinicians to get them in the community, because it does no good for everybody to say mental health, but we're not making the investment into mental health. So I'm just trying to figure out what is the hangups? What is the holdup? Is it the school? Is it the hours? What is it that's keeping our providers or our folks that's going through these programs to get into the service field in the community?
Wow. That's a very great question. First thing I want to say is that you cannot pick a person off the street to do this work. This is not easy work. It's not easy work. You have to be able to take on someone's problems, and when you're done working with them, unzip it, unpack it, and leave it with the person that you're working with. Let me say this, that you have to be drawn to this field. It has to be out of compassion. It has to be out of a desire to help. I came into this because I had friends when I was in middle school that will always, I've realized I'm a great listener. I've had friends always talk to me about their problems, and I'm always giving them advice. And then I figured I wanted to be like a child psychiatrist, but baby, when I saw it in a psych hospital, I saw the work and not the pretty work, which means that people are coming in with acute symptoms and, something happened to a person where they've been personally violated. And when you're working with the grit, it's not easy, nor is it pretty. So I thought, it was going to be someone, wanting, just coming in and skipping and just happy, just wanting to talk, not even knowing. So you have to have a desire, because this is not a well-paying industry. What I think probably needs to happen is probably some mentorship, that people that are already in, who have experience, who can speak honestly to the work that is already going on and needs to happen. Talk to people who potentially have interest in this field. It's not all about terms and diagnoses. These are people who have lived lives and experienced some things that need the compassion and empathy of others. So I think what would be beneficial is someone who is experienced and who have the schooling, who could talk to people like, listen, if you want to be very educated, you're going to have to take it a step further, and getting your master's degrees and doing some clinical internships, externships, and doing some studying. So I think we would have to kind of, be very honest about the conversations and educational levels, what you would be doing and how it looks if you do get a bachelor's degree, what you would be doing and how it looks if you did get a master's. And hopefully the people who get the education serve the people in their community. It's very important because, even working, my last job was a program coordinator. And when people were trying to figure out who they were going to pour and put their trust into, it was very important. It was someone with, qualities that they could relate to. And most of the time it was, someone who was African American or someone who was, the same gender. So it's just very important that, people who do this work, they understand that there is a need, and there's a need to help people that look like them, especially the Black males that we have. The Black males who are in this field. A lot of people specifically want to work with a young Black male or not even to put a limit on the age, a Black male usually seek out other Black male clinicians to work with. So it's just all about, just kind of guiding people and who are in the field and who take it a step further, who want to, do it clinically, just coming back to their community and helping people. And just, I think the biggest thing is that a lot of people don't know that they're traumatized, and it shows up criminally. By the time they realize, oh, I've been through some stuff. Oh, I'm acting out in anger, or I'm acting out in, PTSD. So I think once we're able to have more open and specific conversations, that, the help will be able to filter in to the communities that need it.
Man, I think that's very important what you said. Very impactful stuff. And I'm glad you're a listener, because I'm working on being a listener, but I'm a talker. I can talk. And that's part of my healing, is getting it out of my chest, getting it out there. But we need more listeners in the community. But I'm really proud of what you, Delia, all of you are doing, because you're instilling this mental health and these conversations of wellness young. And I think that's what we need to do, is start young and incorporate it in there. And I also I'm pushing for our employers across the state to really take the step in the lead, these large corporations and organizations, to really implement mental wellness a part of the workday, right? Even in these hospitals, we got to do safety training once a week, or every bi-weekly, you got to do an hour safety meeting, right? Or these whatever meetings it is, right? How do we incorporate mental health in that, right? We got all these workplace shootings, all this stuff happening, bullying in the workplace, people being discriminated. It's this big call to action for diversity and inclusion, right? But how do we put mental health as a priority for these employers? And that's one of the things that I'm really advocating for and pushing, talking to some of our legislative folks. Like, look, we got to, y'all pass all of these labor laws and all of this stuff for employers to follow. We got Cal OSHA that put all these requirements in there for safety, right? But we're not addressing the mental health. And I think sometimes if we incorporate it into work, and especially for the Black community, that might be another way that we could get those services, because we are very prideful. And then how do we invest in telehealth? One of the best things COVID did was that for things to go digital. And I think sometimes in the privacy of some of our homes, we could get this working treatment. So I'm a big advocate for telehealth as well, being able to have therapy sessions through Zoom or whatever with the community. We got to be innovative. But I think legislatively, when we're talking about passing bills and mental health, we see what's going on, these school shootings, all of this stuff, this bullying that's happening, right? How do we really intentionally, when we talk about intentional, because I heard Delia about being intentional, that's the kind of shifting in conversation that I would like to see on a political level when we talk about our employers. When 90% of our time are at work, half of our days we are at work. People are burnt out. It's the holidays. People are going through stuff. It's stress, right? How do we get our employers to buy in and be a part of this change, right? Because it takes us all. When we talk about the village approach, the employers have to play their part as well. And I would like to see legislatively, some bill or something in place in the future where they can say, hey, we're going to make sure that your employees have to get so much therapy treatment or one-on-one therapy or something within their workday, or bring some kind of mental health and wellness to the community. I think that's very important. And for the males of the community, again, it's about vulnerability. And I'm going to advocate that our males of the community seek mental health and therapy, whether it's a male or a female. But I also want the women of the community to understand this as well, whether you're a clinician or not. And I always bring this up when we talk about relationships and everything, is when we have our Black males, willing to be vulnerable and open up to what their issues are. We have to make sure that the women of the community are not weaponizing their pain through anger, because a lot of times what happened, the things that we become vulnerable about and open up sometimes are used against men during the times of high emotions, or when we having these disagreements, and then that closes off some of the fellas in our community. I've heard those stories. You hear it in the barbershop. And we want our males to be open and feel safe. We want to give them the same respect that we give everybody when we're talking about being vulnerable and things of that nature. So a lot of work to do. But I think you all are on the pathway of where we need to go. You all leadership is what's going to help change this, and hopefully we get other city and other organizations to really get behind this model that you all are putting together, because this concept is real. I like the education and mental health part together, and I agree with Crystal. Our young folks are so into this YouTube and these digital media. Even my grandbaby, she be there watching all this stuff. And somebody, what are you watching? I hear these kids talking all crazy. But we got to find fun things that we could really, challenge their emotional intelligence, and also have some of that mental health within there when we're talking about how we feel and expressions. Because I'm always asking my grandbaby, how do you feel today? What's going on, right? And I think if we put it into games and coloring books, like you all say, it's just a real good way to open up. But we also have to teach the parents, because I think a lot of the problems that's happening in our communities, the young folks is getting it, but some of the adults aren't. And like you talked about earlier, that trauma that our kids experience in the homes with substance abuse, and some of the problems or the untreated trauma that our adults have sometimes just rolls off to our young folks. So we got a lot of work, and it's not going to be solved overnight, but these conversations, these type of events and the program that you all are putting out is really the ground roots breaking of what we need to do. And I hope more people get behind it, and we're going to continue to do our part to support and uplift that movement of what you all are doing. And I love it, Delia. This is phenomenal stuff. And I really appreciate you all for doing that. But with that being said, if you all want to talk about anything else, we are at the 7:00 hour. I don't want to hold you all up. Crystal is 21 community. At Sunday, she'll be 22. So we want to make sure she makes it to 22 as she's out enjoying herself and taking that mental health, like she said, that time for yourself. It is so needed. So I don't want to hold them up any longer, but if there's anything else that you all want to talk about in the upcoming programming or events that you all are a part of, please go ahead and talk to the community. But if not, I don't want to hold Crystal up from getting close to 22, y'all. 22, she's going to get there, all right? Anybody have anything else? Are y'all good? Everybody's good?
I just want to end with one thing, as far as like employers and just people in general. When we see an injury, we see someone who's broken their arm, they're in the cast. We see someone who twisted their ankle, it's wrapped up in the ace bandage. We see someone who's burned their skin, it's usually in a dressing, depending on the stage of healing. But we have to understand we are able to empathize with those people because we can see those injuries, right? So when someone who has a mental health problem, or someone who is in the beginnings of like the early stages of a mental health issue or problem, we can't always see it. It looks very normal most of the time. Sometimes people are sleeping, sometimes they don't want to do something, but we don't necessarily understand what it is. We just have to start leading with love, and we have to definitely offer compassion and empathy to our fellow person. I had said earlier this year that we are about to be on the brink of a mental health crisis unlike we've ever seen before, yes, because, of the pandemic. So what is very important is that we just have to continuously check in with people, check in with your family, check in with your neighbors, check in with your friends, and just see how people are doing. We're losing family members due to COVID or what other ailments may be out there. We have the problems of the world. So it's just very important, if you care, that you do your due diligence as a human being. And when you encounter someone, just smile, speak to them, because everybody pretty much is going through something, whether they say it or we could see it or not. And that's all I wanted to end and say. So thank you.
Wow, that was
Thank you, John.
That was very, very beautifully put. I'm just, I'm glad you said that, because that is what we really need to hear, as we get close to Kwanzaa and we get close to Christmas and close to New Year's. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about loss, this past 2 years of COVID, just losing our family members and folks and friends to COVID and different things. It's tough, and mental health is definitely a big thing. So I really appreciate you saying that. Check on the community, check on your folks, because again, depression sits in. People are sitting around thinking about their family, their loved ones, and but we want everybody to know that these holidays is not just about giving gifts; it's about also being a blessing and giving to other people. And sometimes it's that phone call, just giving that grace, being that ear to hear those folks and what's going on. And sometimes that makes it different because we know during the holidays, suicide is up. A lot of these mental health crises happen as people are just struggling with the fact of what's going on in their life that's impacted them. So I really appreciate you saying that. I've been saying that all week, all month, all year, and I just like how you put that. We have to continue to lead with love, humility, and compassion, and just making sure that we just show love and not be judgmental. And as people are healing, just be a support. And it don't always go as planned. Your healing process might have been one way. It might be a different way for somebody else, but let's support each other, uplift each other, and not just walk away, and saying, hey, they don't get it. Because everybody learns different. Everybody receives information different. And it might not be you that's going to be the one that's going to connect them. Maybe it's somebody else, but make sure that experience that they have with you will keep them open and willing to go talk to somebody else for that need. And just also real quick before we leave, just want to really also just touch on this because a lot of times the reason why I want to have you all come back for these conversations is because a lot of times we don't really get to identify what healing looks like. And sometimes it becomes a slogan. People talk about red flags. That's the new thing since all these dating guys, Kevin Samuel, all these people out, everybody talking about red flags. But we don't really dive into what that really is, what it really looks like, and everything is not a red flag, right? Sometimes we just have to be aware and have some discernment. But a lot of times in our communities, these topics and these slogans come up and we just use it. And I hear women, I hear men saying it all the time. I'm healed. I'm like, true healing is a continued process, right? But we hear people say that. And I think sometimes that's that false narrative. This process of healing and mental wealth is every day. It's like a relationship. It's day-to-day maintenance. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be fixed. It's going to take day-to-day work. And I just hope that we as community, as we start having these conversations, we actually break those things down to our community, understand, because I listen to these other shows. I'm very active in these digital streets. I'm on Clubhouse. I'm everywhere. And I always hear people say, I'm healed. I did the work. I'm healed. But it's always people sitting there like, well, what does that look like? You know what I mean? What is healed and what does that process look like? And I think if we could do a better job as community folks and professional folks to really start having those conversations, what does healing looks like? And healing might look like something different from everybody, but just not getting into the point where I did a few therapy sessions and I'm healed. We got to be real because, we want to make sure that our community gets the treatment, get the services, and they're continuing to work on itself because I believe healing is a continued thing. We all can be triggered and we can have setbacks. But I think if there's a commitment of being better and being open and continuing to do the work, because I believe it's a continued work process. So when I hear people say they're healed, I always get this little way you healed. Like it's always something. But I think we have ways that we cope and get through stuff. But I think that it's a continued process. It is no shortcomings. We are human. We are not robots. So we do have those feelings and those different things that take place. And we just want to make sure that it's okay and it's cool, even when we're not feeling the best. And if we're not doing the things that we need, that we just still understand that healing process is continued and we just continue to support each other. But with that being said, if there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and start closing us out for tonight's show. Thank you all for being so patient in my long-winded speeches. But I think every opportunity we have, not only on this platform, but as you all go off into your daily journeys, that we continue to have these conversations, be the leaders, be spoken when no one else is speaking, to speak up and keep these conversations going. And I think that'll bring true healing to our community. And I'm just excited to see some of the work that you all are doing, and anything that we could do here at both sides of the conversation to help you all, we will. If it's just blasting out flyers, getting folks to your event, driving people to the work you all doing, that's what we're here to do, bring our communities together. And, we're trying to follow the lead of the OMI because the OMI is doing it right. And I want to bring that model to the rest of our city and throughout the Bay Area and beyond. We got to work together. There's enough resources and opportunities for us all if we come together, be patient, and not look for the egos and who gets the highlights and who gets the credit. Let's really be about our people and making sure that our families and our community and our young folks, and especially our elders, we didn't even tap into that. So many of our elders have lost their loved ones, and they are in these elder homes and they don't have people to talk to. So be a blessing to them. Reach out and talk. Maybe be a pen pal, or maybe go do something for our seniors as well, because they get lonely and they get stressed and they deal with depression and things as well. It's a community approach. Everybody needs the support and love during this holiday season. So with that being said, everybody be safe out there. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts, but enjoy your family this year. Enjoy your loved ones. If you have issues in your family or things that's been bothering you or broken relationship, let's be the ones this year to make that change, and let's heal and repair some of these broken relationships. And let's be the ones that's open to forgive and move forward and lead in love, humility, and compassion, like Ms. LaShawn said. But with that being said, our next live show, you all, is this Sunday. We're going to have another segment, part 2 of Ask Your Black Doctor. We're going to have Dr. Franks and Dr. Mo come back on this Sunday, and we're going to take questions and talk about some of the other health disparities that are taking place in our community outside of COVID. I know last week was more focused on COVID, but this weekend we're going to talk a little bit more about COVID, but we're going to open it up to more of the Black health disparities and issues that are taking place in our community. There has been an increase in STIs, HIV, a lot of things that we're not really hearing and talking about because COVID has taken over the mass media. But here at both sides of the conversation, we're about the community, our people, and we want to make sure our people know what's going on, making sure that they get the services and the resources to make sure that they're protecting themselves, especially when you're talking about Black health. So we'll be having that conversation this Sunday. If you want to see us, connect with us, go to our website, bsotc.org. I'll be out in the community all weekend. Y'all see me all over the Bay Area. I got a number of events that I've been invited to come out. People want to see us. They want to be out there. We'll be at a number of those events, and we'll be live, and we'll be out there posting where we at. So if you want to pull up, holler at us, have a conversation, or just see what we're doing, you can pull up. We'll be out there, and we'll get that information out to the community. With that being said, have a good evening. We bet you all good well. To the 22-year-old Crystal Hawkins, have a safe, blessed birthday. Don't party too hard. We need you to come save some lives when you come back, because our young folks are going to need you. But definitely enjoy yourself. I hope you have a good time. Don't let 22 pass you up. Enjoy it. Bring that wisdom into the next years of your greatness. We thank you all. Thank you, Delia. Thank you, LaShawn, for coming on and being patient this evening and blessing our community with that information. We love you all, and we'll see you all soon. Have a great evening. We'll see you all soon.